So as you heard, my name is Brendan Emick. I'm also a founding member of the Professional Speakers Association of Namibia, and my role is in the marketing and branding. That's because in my day-to-day life, that's what I do. I'm a marketing and branding consultant, and I specialize in social media and content creation and content management. What I want to speak to you today about is about a little bird told me something, and this is just how to tweet your way to a greater stage. And what I want to try give you is something that you can take home with you, whether you are a professional speaker, if you're wanting to get into professional speaking, whether you have your own business, if you're a consultant, or you work within a company. Actually, in any place in which you would like to go somewhere and be on a better stage, on a greater stage, then this is a great opportunity, because I want to share with you just one small little aspect of it. And I'm going to specifically look at Twitter, and that's the little bird over there. So if you're wondering what the bird was, usually when you say little bird told me, you don't really tell the person who the bird was, but that's the little bird. So when you got 5 minutes to fill, Twitter is a brilliant way to fill 35 minutes. So I'm going to give you this little bit of a tip, although that which I wanted to speak to you about tonight, generally you can do it in 5 to 10 minutes a day, and if you had to spend that, you'd be able to really increase your presence online just in Twitter. But generally, I mean, I'm sure we all realize that you quickly want to check your Facebook status, you quickly want to go into Pinterest, you quickly want to see or post something on Instagram, and you'll end up an hour's past or half an hour's past. So that comes as a bit of a fair warning, but maybe what I can give you some advice on how to rein in that time and how to make your time that you spend on social media, specifically when you're looking at social media in the context of you as a professional speaker, is how to use it and get the most value out of it. So what I do want to start off with is that in the beginning of the year, this is the stats of social media and social media networking platforms of the amount of active users that there are per month, and the amounts are in millions. So Facebook currently has about 1.8 billion, almost 1.9 billion active users every month. So that's the number of users that have logged in at least once in the month, and this was in the period of January. Then we have WhatsApp that has just over 1 billion, and then you'll have Facebook Messenger, which theoretically is the same thing as Facebook, but they do separate because you can actually access Messenger and Facebook completely separately. You don't have to have a Facebook account to actually use Messenger these days. And then you have QQ, and you have WeChat. If you find yourself in Asia, you'll realize that every Asian uses either QQ or WeChat. Here it's not prevalent at all. And then you have QZone, which is very similar. And then we come to Instagram, which has 600 million users every month. And then Twitter that has 317 million, and then I don't know how to pronounce that.
I do.
I don't know it. I had to search for it and look for it, and I couldn't even log in, so it was kind of off the radar. And then you have Snapchat, which has 300 million users. But let me put this into the context of what we're more familiar with, because you'll see that Twitter was right down at the bottom there. But if you look at Facebook having 1.8 billion, you take out those which are irrelevant for in our community and in our side of the world, you realize that Instagram is second, which is actually owned by Facebook, and then you have Twitter. So for a lot of people that say that Twitter is dying and Twitter is dead and nobody uses Twitter, the numbers don't show that. The numbers show that Twitter is still very much so a valuable resource that you can use in your quiver of arrows that you can fire out to improve yourself as a professional speaker and how you can grow your business. Because my whole talk is about how can you use these simple tools to grow your business. So if I just by show of hands, who has a Twitter account? Alright, Twitter account. Alright. Who is active on Twitter? Very active on Twitter? Posting, say, once a week. Okay, just say that. Alright, I'm hoping I'm going to encourage you to get more active on Twitter, because what I want to share with you is how you can leverage Twitter as a platform so that you can actually achieve greater stages to speak on. And so what I want to look at some research work that I'm busy doing, and I'll probably have this maybe finished in 3 months' time. We'll be able to have a more quantitative and qualitative survey done. But what I've taken is the top e-speakers. Now, e-speakers is a directory which we as professional speakers will use, and actually as members of the Professional Speakers Association of Namibia, we have free access to this speaker platform. And there's about 11,500 speakers on that platform. What I did was I filtered out the top speakers and these were the top speakers who earned in excess of $20,000 for each presentation they did. So for one speech, they earned $20,000. Right, so that's high caliber. We're talking about, and that's not the top tier, because some people ask up to $50,000 per presentation. So what it is, I looked at the top speakers, and then I looked at their profiles, and what I wanted to, and what I'm mining out of this data is which social networks they use and what trends can we pick up from these professionals who are clearly, they've made it. They are as professional as you can get. This is what I found, is that on average, when it comes to their Twitter followers, is that on average they have about 9,441 followers, which is quite a substantial amount. I'm not going to go around and ask everybody how many followers they have. You'll see that when it comes to the actual numbers, is that 20% of them, of the ones that I've surveyed, I obviously haven't surveyed the whole group. I narrowed it just down to this 20,000 bracket, and there's actually 4,000 professional speakers who ask 20,000 or more per session. So that's a lot. If you look at just the actual number, it's about a third of the speakers. Then you look at those who have 1,000 to 5,000 followers is 10%, and we go from 5,000 to 10,000, that increases to 30, and from 10,000 to 25,000 followers there's 30,000. But if you look at just this portion of it, and you'll realize that almost 2/3 of all these professional speakers who are earning good money, who have made it into a business that actually is highly profitable, they have very large followers on Twitter. And so that's one point that I can see, that there's a trend towards the fact that the more followers you have as a speaker, there's a better possibility that you will be able to step up and have a greater stage to speak on. So that's the first one. The second one I want to look at is the average number of tweets. In other words, how many physical messages, 140 character messages, they've actually sent on Twitter. Because I'm wanting to see, is there a trend? Is there a relationship between how active you are on this particular social network versus how great the stage is that you can stand on and that you can deliver your speeches from and grow your business from. And yeah, the figures are almost identical. Is that, back to it, that 60%, and if you include even more, it would be over 70% of the people have an average of 7,122 tweets. So that's they're very active. And if you look that, this is the amount of over 10,000, or from 7,500 to 10,000, is already 40% of them have that amount of tweets. That's a lot of tweets. That really is a lot of tweets. But on average, and this is, I'm still doing the research and mining the data, is you're looking at about 3 to 5 posts a day is what they do to grow their businesses. Then I also want to just indicate something which I saw is a bit of a trend, and obviously my sample group isn't big enough now to actually give very, very clear information. So this you can take with a pinch of salt, but this is the trends that I've seen. Is that most of them joined Twitter when Twitter was still very, very young. And so obviously they can have amounted to 10,000 plus tweets, and they have some of them over 100,000 followers and some of them over 1 million followers on Twitter. Is because they have been on the platform for very long. So there's that the platform has matured and their audience has matured along with it. But you notice on actually all the way up here, there's nobody that's joined later than 2012. So new speakers that are right up there, that have a high platform that they're on have really started on Twitter a long time ago. So that shows that there's a strong correlation between how long they've been on Twitter, how active they're on Twitter, and how big their audience is to the relationship that there is to the strength of their business and how much they can ask as a professional speaker. I'm going to throw in a lot of these just to lighten the atmosphere, but it is very true. On Twitter we get excited if someone follows us, in real life we get scared and we run away. Okay. So what I want to speak is, how then do you use Twitter to actually get yourself onto this path of being able to become a professional speaker and actually be able to earn a decent and carve yourself a career out of speaking. Now obviously, and I was speaking to school-going to kids that who do public speaking just competition-wise, and I'm saying is that you don't think that you're going to walk out of school and all of a sudden earn 20,000. You need to have something to back you up. You have to have some form of information. You have to have something that somebody would be willing to pay that kind of money for. What I want to look at is what do you have to do to your Twitter account, physically to your presence online, on Twitter, so that you can best prepare yourself and have the best foot in the door in order to be able to achieve a greater stage through Twitter. And this is now would apply, you'll be able to mirror onto Facebook, you can mirror this onto Instagram, and all the other social media platforms that you want to use. I'm just focusing on Twitter because that is something I've been doing research on. So the first thing is your name. Now this is something that I find very interesting, is that so many people on Twitter will have a different name to the name that they use when they get introduced onto stage. And to me that is bizarre, because how's anybody going to search and find you on Twitter in the first place to start following you? So the first thing that I want you to take note of is that go to your Twitter account and make sure that the name on there is not funnywoman256, but rather it's your actual name that is on there. Or that is not your nickname from when you were 4 years old, or from high school, or from your varsity days. It is actually your professional name. The name that you want to be addressed as in your professional career as a speaker, that's what needs to be. The second one is your photo. Now the photo, I could probably do a whole hour on just on the importance of the photo itself. The idea is that your photo has to represent who you're going to be on stage. So you don't want to have a photo that is a misrepresentation of yourself, or a photo of some celebrity, or a photo of a duck, or a flower, or your last meal that you ate. You want to portray the best image of who you are. So generally a nice head and shoulder shot. It doesn't have to be a professional shot from a studio, but if you have that ability, or you have somebody that takes good photographs, a good photograph can speak many, many words about yourself. So I want to encourage you that you use the best photo that you can possibly have. And if you were going to invest a little bit of money in your personal branding, I would say get the best photo that you can get. And then something I do want to throw in is that have that photograph on every single social platform that you have. That's one single photograph. So when somebody sees you, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whichever social platform, is that it's there, that they're always going to recognize you. And what I noticed, while mining through all this data, is every single person that is in that top list, the image that they use on the eSpeaker directory, so the international directory, is the exact same image that is on Facebook, the exact same image that's on Twitter. The next one is a header. Now if you're on Twitter, this is the same as on Facebook and on some other platforms, you have this header image that you can put in. Think of the header image as being a billboard of yourself. Now it's not that you don't need a photograph of yourself, but this is the splash that you can put out that sells you and sells your image and sells in an image, and it's a nice sized image of what it is that you do. So if you had a look at my Twitter account, there's a collage in that of infographics and pictures, and there's words thrown out on the image of all the things that I like to speak about and the things that I do as a consultant. And if you go to a lot of these professional speakers, it might be a picture of them on stage, it could be a picture of a large audience, or it could just be a representation of their book or the most recent topic that they've spoken about. But it needs to be your best foot in the door. It needs to show who you are in the moment and what people can expect when you're on stage. Then the next one that you want to look at is going to be your bio, and I'm going to go into more detail in the bio in a few minutes time. So I've actually put that as a total separate thing because of how important I feel it is. The next one is location. I see a lot of people putting location, best planet on Earth, or the land of the brave, and all these other things, which sound good and is all great, but from a professional point of view, if somebody sitting in the States or somebody sitting even in South Africa has no idea where the land of the brave is. You know, that kind of thing. So put in your actual physical location of where you are. This will also help when people are searching for you. And this will also give your audience, or the person that's coming to your Twitter account, a sense of your location. This will also give them a bit of a sense of the context that you'll be speaking in. And so I think that's an important one. So don't leave that out. Put in Windhoek if you want to be very specific, but if you want to be an international speaker, I would suggest you probably want to put on Namibia as your location. The next one is a link. Twitter gives you the opportunity to put a link on. My suggestion is to link to either your personal website if you have, your personal blog if you have, if not to a professional network. So don't go and link it to Snapchat, or don't go and link it to Instagram. I would, unless that platform is where you are best represented, I would say as a professional speaker, LinkedIn is probably your best if you don't have your own your own website. But I highly encourage you to have your own website, and highly encourage you to have your own blog, but unfortunately I can't go into detail as to why I would do that. And the last one is theme, is that Twitter allows you to pick a color theme, and that will change the colors of some of the design elements within Twitter. The links will change colors. And the reason why they do that is so that you can install a certain sense of personality into your presence on Twitter. That you have, if you have a personal brand that has a color to it, incorporate that into your Twitter profile, because that's just going to strengthen the positioning that you have. I could go into details onto the theory of color and how different colors will, there's a psychology behind different colors and what those colors will represent, but unfortunately I don't have time for that. I want to look at how do you iterate. In other words, optimizing is how do you streamline and how do you make it more efficient. Iterating is where you make changes all the time until you have the best version of what you have, or the version that is the best suited for the moment. So the first thing I want to look at is that adding keywords into your bio. Now your bio is 160 characters. I don't know why it's not 140 characters, but it's 160 characters. That's how much text you have to write in. In your bio, there needs to be keywords, and my suggestion is 3 to 5 keywords that explain who it is that you are and what people can expect on the stage when you are coming up on stage. So if you speak about entrepreneurship or social media, or you speak about branding and marketing like I do, those are the keywords I'm going to have in my statement. Don't go and put in your favorite quote, or don't go and put in some motivational thing that has no relevance to who you are and what people are going to expect. Because remember, all these social platforms, when you use it as a personal branding tool, it's a representation and an extension of yourself. It's you online, available 24/7, and so it needs to represent you. Number 2 in this is that you want to add some personality into it. If you do your presentation and you're a bit more humorous or you're a bit more light-hearted, use words that will portray that. Your personality needs to spill over into your social media. Your branding needs to be a representation, once again, of yourself, but it needs to have personality. You can't just be this dry 5 keywords and a link to or a telephone number, something like that. It needs to have personality in it. If you are working with say for example youth, you might want to use some lingo that will be a representation of that. If you work a lot with doing training, for example, with executives, you might want to have wording that is best suited for that audience. So, but spill over your personality and what people can expect from you. I'll probably repeat it many times tonight. Is that your Twitter account, your Facebook account, your Instagram, your Snapchat, whichever platform you decide to use, is a representation of yourself. And the last one is editing. You only have 160 characters. I still work on 140 characters because you never know when they're going to change things. But then what it might be is that you have to be creative in how you edit your bio. So you want to take words like and maybe reduce them just to the little and sign, or you want to put a plus sign. I highly suggest you don't use SMS type texting, so you don't use shorthand in it, because that just doesn't look professional. But you might have to be very creative, and sometimes it can be worth it to spend $5 on something like Fiverr or use a freelance service and actually find somebody who's good with copy and actually write a good bio for yourself. There's people that specialize in it. That's what they do. That's their job, is writing bios and profiles for people. So to get the best into your 140, 160 characters, I highly recommend that you edit. And this is iterating. You need to iterate this all the time, change it all the time. Every time that you speak about a new topic, or you're in a new phase in your life, or you feel like you're stepping into a different role in your public speaking, in your professional speaking career, then that needs to be reflected. And so this is why you don't write one and you leave it for the next 5 years. So, which is the case, most people do that. And we all hopefully are growing and developing as individuals, as well as in our business and our craft and our skill as professional speakers. So I highly recommend that you iterate this all the time. And by iterating, I mean all of these. As you get older, you get mature, so maybe you go from being less humorous and less street lingo-ish to maybe something more formal. And sometimes people swap around. They realize that they're too formal and too serious in their life, and they loosen up. That needs to be reflected in your profile. Here's just with regards to putting your best self out there and using these platforms, the best way to engage honestly with the marketplace, in other words, people or event organizers, and that is by Twitter, is to never use the words engage, honestly, and marketplace. There's a lot of motivation before that, but I'll let you think about that and dwell on that. The next is another tool, and this is part of your your profile. It's not necessarily about actually what tweets you're going to be sending out. Is to create Twitter lists. Now, a lot of people probably don't even know that they exist. You could be using Twitter for 5 years and you might not even realize, or you see it there and you have no idea what it is. So what a Twitter list is that it's a curated list of people that you can follow, or people that you add into a list that you can then, when you select that particular list, you don't get this flood of information from all 317 million users, but you actually just get the people that you've selected into that list. The first one is you can create topical lists. If you speak about fitness and you speak about sports psychology, create a list of the best people, the best resources for that particular industry. If you are a food scientist, if you maybe are very specifically, you're a winemaker, or you are a baker, and you speak about that industry, then you can create Twitter lists that just focus on the best resources in that industry. And how this will help you is, when I get to some points a bit later, is that it will help you to be able to, when you get into reposting, when you get into actually sharing content and finding good content to share with your followers, is that if you have a curated list of the very best content, then you have, that's what we can call low-hanging fruit. So creating lists that are topical, these are lists that need to be the same topics that you speak about. Don't go to create lists about places you want to go to on holiday. I mean, you can, but the idea is that this is to grow your professional network. So create topical lists on the topics you speak about. The next is speakers. I found that most of the speakers that I've been doing research on actually have lists of other speakers in their industry. And part of the reason for that is, if you go to any conferences, usually you'll have a group of speakers speaking about the same industry or the same type of subjects bundled together. So you'll have maybe 5 or 6 speakers and they'll all be talking about the same subject, because most conferences are theme-based. And this is a way for you to get to know the other people, the other influencers in that particular space. And so when somebody's doing research on say for example, they're going to have a conference about food technology and they go searching for food technology, if they land upon a list, they'll actually find all the food technology speakers. So creating that list puts you into the position of the other people that are influencers in your space. And the third one is your interests. The things that motivate why you say what you say. I enjoy video games, I love gamification, I enjoy music, I enjoy recording, and I enjoy graphic design, and a lot of things. I don't speak about these things, but by me being involved in those different industries and those businesses, that I create a different sense of a platform and a different crowd and different people that I can then say, by the way, I also speak about entrepreneurship. Once again, as I say, a creative idea plus a fresh network, so let's just say Twitter, even though a lot of people say that it's not very fresh anymore, is the best way to go from 0 to millions. And there are people that have created incredible business opportunities for themselves and carved out careers for themselves as motivational speakers, as inspirational speakers, as topical speakers, based purely on their audience that they've created, either on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitter. What is it that you need to be doing to grow your platform? But what I would say is that from the people that you follow, from your interests or the topics that you speak about, go and find that kind of information and start liking that information. And what it will do is that Twitter will take all of your activity and will log everything that you do, and it will base the type of information that comes your way, that streams your way through its algorithm. You'll start seeing more and more of that kind of content. And what it will then allow you to do is that you'll be able to see what is happening in your market space, what is happening in the broader sense of the topic that you speak about. So once again, for me, I speak about entrepreneurship and social media marketing, and that I follow those kind of people. And so what my feed looks like 80% or sometimes 90% of the time is the latest news, the best insight, the best motivation, the best tips around the subjects that I'm interested in. Then when you find really good content, you need to be retweeting that. You just click the little recycle button that looks like a recycle sign and retweet it. When you retweet, this is content that somebody else has created that you're then showing up on your wall. And after that is, you need to start replying to good content that you see. Don't just see a good quote and say, well, I like that. Why do you like it? And then maybe just post a quick little note to tell the person who created their content why you like their content. This encourages them, but also what it does is back to that whole thing. When you start commenting on other people's stuff and start replying on their posts, they will start replying back on your post. And it happens fairly quickly. You start getting into a habit of doing that, and you'll see people more and more start commenting on your content. And as you do that, Twitter then starts seeing you as being more of an influencer, and what you do is you start filtering out of this 317 million people that are using it. You start filtering out of that sea of people. And if you know the terminology between where's the blue and red ocean waters, you want to get out of the red and you want to get into the blue. This is the process of being able to do that. And then lastly, I have a system in place. So this is a system that I work through fairly religiously. Now this is a tactic. This is not something that you're going to be able to use for the next 5 years. This has been working for me for the last year, maybe 18 months. I don't know how long this will still have value, but the premise of this, I think that to some degree it will always have a certain amount of value. So what I like to do is every single day I try to post something. Now, I said to you that the average time that these professional speakers post is about 3 to 5 times. If you have the time to do that and you have the content to share, then I would say do that. But just post once a day. So this is going to take you 5 to 10 minutes max. If it takes more than that, you may be doing it wrong, and maybe you're chasing too many rabbits and reading too many memes and watching cat videos. So this is 5 minutes. This literally will take you 5 minutes. And if you have a huge amount of accounts like I do, it takes you about an hour. I spend about an hour to an hour and a half every day doing this. So I like to post something. Now I use automated software. I spend one day in the month. I will do about 4 or 5 accounts. I create content for the whole entire month. At least 1 or 2 different posts. So I'm going to tell you what kind of posts I do just now. So I create the content, and then I schedule it so that every single day something is automatically posted. I don't see it as being cheating. I've done the work, and I feel it's good content, and I usually try to connect it to the theme that I want to blog about or the theme that I'm speaking about. So that's what I do. Then the very next thing is after I've posted something on that is I like to go and find content that I can retweet, and then have no more than 3 retweets. I do no more than 3 retweets, and I'm actually at the moment have scaled it down to only doing 2 a day. So I find the very best content that I can retweet. So I look for infographics, I look for good videos, and that's where my lists come in. So if I've got an account for one of my wine projects that I work on, I have a list of, say for example, South African, Australian or Italian winemakers, and if that's my theme for the day, I will then find the best 2 tweets that I can find. But I only take about 30 seconds to a minute. But because I have curated content through my Twitter list, I don't have to scroll through thousands of tweets to find the best. It's already been curated and it's already waiting for me. I find it and then I comment on, then I repost those 2, so I retweet them. Then what I do is I go and like the people who created that content. And generally good quality content has a lot of people retweeting and liking it. And so what I do is I like to follow every single time I do this. So in that 5 minutes, I follow 25 people every day on that. And depending on how old your Twitter account is, depending on the type of content you share, Twitter can ban you if you follow too many people too quickly. So you can't just go and follow 1,000 people at one time. You'll just get banned or you'll get suspended for 7 days. Sometimes it's a schlep to reactivate your account. It's somewhere around 40 is where it is, but I don't like to push the limit too much to find out, and nowhere do they say how much. They just say it's on a case based, so it depends on your activity. So if they feel that you're spamming, they'll block you if you go early. Does that make sense? Like just as a bit of a strategy, should take you 5 minutes. I'd love to give you a practical example of that, but the only way that I can get my phone onto here is you have to pay $1,000 for a little cable wee big, and I was just like, oh, it's a bit of I love you guys, but Quotes is a brilliant way to generate content that is actually very cheap to come by. Cheap in terms of time, cheap in terms of how much resources. You can go to, there's so many websites that have lists and lists and lists and lists of quotes. And generally a quote is short enough to fit into the 140 character limit that you have on Twitter. So for some of my clients, I will schedule 2 or 3 quotes a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or I'll do 2, so I'll do Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sometimes for myself, I'll do every day, or I'll do it every day but at different times of the day to hit different, and this gets very technical, but to get into different time zones. So that I know that I have an audience, say for example, in Australia or New Zealand and I like to post, say for example, at 2 o'clock in the morning. And this is pre-scheduled, I don't wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning obviously to post. And then I'll have one for my audience that is in Saudi or in Europe, and then I like to post later at night for my American friends and followers. So having quotes is a brilliant way to generate good, but make sure, don't just post any quote, make sure the quote that you're posting is as closely aligned to the content that you are speaking about, that you're passionate about. Because remember, everything you're posting is a representation of yourself. When somebody goes and reads the last 20 posts that you've done and they see quotes, those quotes need to be as if almost they came from your own mouth. So try to find the quotes that best represent the content that you share and who you are as a person. And then another thing is facts. And currently facts seem to be working incredibly well. I get a huge amount of traction from posting facts. So what I like to do is I like to go into Wikipedia, I like to go into the CIA's World Fact Book website and like to just pull off as many facts around certain subjects. So when I'm looking at entrepreneurship, I'll be looking at things like facts around startups. What is the average lifespan of a startup company? How much capital they need? And I'll just post those as short little facts once a day or once every second day, and that generates good quality content. So back to this whole thing of post, retweet, like and follow, quotes and the facts and the rest of it, and the next one is actually tips. These are the things that I like to post about. And if I post on something like that, then that's what I'll then retweet something else. So if I find a good quote, I will post it, but I'm not going to retweet somebody else's quote because it kind of defeats the object. I want you to have good quality content. And then tips is just that I like to go and read blogs. And if I find a blog that says 10 tips to overcome stage fright, then I'll make 10 tweets out of that article. And just in an hour, I'll be able to post out 10 tweets that are based on each post that I do is in one of those tweets, and that's a great way to generate huge amount of content. And the very last one I'm going to speak about is something known as Twitter parties. Twitter parties is basically just where a whole bunch of people will use the same hashtag. I'm sure you all know what hashtags are, but they'll use a certain hashtag around a specific topic, and at a very specific time, it's usually 1 hour or 2 hours, that everybody can engage in a certain topic. And so maybe every 5 minutes, whoever's hosting the party, it's known as a Twitter party, they'll ask a question, people can just throw answers out. So I would encourage you to get involved in Twitter parties in your specific field. A simple Google search for, if you're a motivational speaker, just type in motivational Twitter parties. If you are doing branding marketing Twitter parties. If you do sports science Twitter party. You get the idea, and it will show you, and then usually there'll be a time, and most Twitter parties that are well organized is once a week. And it's a great place to meet people, it's a great place to add people into your Twitter lists. And it's also just a good way for you to bring out your best content into the conversation, and that way build your audience. Because ultimately we want to build our audience so that we ourselves can stand up on greater stages to speak of. We'll leave you with this: Twitter is not a technology, it's a conversation, and it's happening with or without you. These conversations are happening, people are tweeting, people are commenting, people are reposting, but if you're not on Twitter, they're not retweeting or reposting or commenting on your stuff. And so if you want to join that conversation and you want to build on that platform, I highly encourage you to get involved. And if you need any more information,